Hey, what's up? This is Joe. Join me in this video as I embark on my first moto-camping adventure into the backwoods of Virginia after a long 6 months off dealing with an injury. For the last 7 weeks, I'd been religiously committed to a physical therapy regimen for my injured shoulder and was doing my best to work my way back onto my bike. My progress had been good enough that they cut me loose a week early, then wished me luck and told me to keep doing the exercises. With the completion of the program, I felt like I was ready for what would be my biggest challenge yet: loading up the bike and attempting my first moto-camping adventure after a long 6 months off. Oh boy, I'm feeling a little bit of trepidation, honestly, now that I finally got everything packed on there and motorcycle's already warmed up. I mean, this is it, you know. It's really crazy to be doing this again. Just loading up a bike and taking off is kind of an adrenaline rush. So anyway, I think everything will be all right. I just can't do any serious off-road. I don't think anyone in that PT office, least of all myself, actually expected it to work in my situation, since most people with a torn labrum usually opt for surgery first. At its worst point, my shoulder was so unstable that it felt like the slightest wrong move would pop it out of the socket. There had been several trips to the hospital in Vietnam over the winter, and the doctors there seemed dead set on wheeling me back into the operating room. I considered it briefly, but ultimately decided to get a second opinion when I got back to the States. The surgeon I saw here surprised me when he recommended the PT, which had thus far been working well enough that I finally gathered up the stones to do what I was now attempting. Almost overnight, the hills of Southwest Virginia had come alive and spring was in full effect. Eagerly, I twisted the throttle and guided the Honda into the Jefferson National Forest, a place where I'd spent a lot of time as a child and which I'd been more or less calling home for the past few months as I'd temporarily been living out of a car. The road I'd been camping off of in my Honda Element had recently just opened back up, complete with a fresh load of deep, jagged gravel. If I were looking for a way to challenge myself and get back in the swing of things, this was definitely it. Yeah, I'm definitely out of practice on gravel and just in general. As soon as I took off with all that weight on the bike, I was like, oh geez, I remember how crazy this is. It's just so overloaded, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I got some more practice to do to get comfortable on the bike again, but that's what I'm doing. And I'm sure after a while it'll be just like second nature again. But last time I was out here was like over a month ago, and now everything's all nice and green, so looks like I'll have some good shade. I looked at it last time. I think the only level spot is going to be under that tree right there. Hope I remember how to do this. All right, looking at that spot and comparing it with this spot, each of these has their own unique set of pros and cons. This one is a little bit further away from the road, which even a few feet makes a world of difference when you're sleeping in a tent. I mean, you want to be as far away from the road as possible, but this one looks like it'll be a little more shady. So I got shady versus a little further from the road. I'm thinking this is still my best bet because it's kind of a little more private. Kind of, when I open up my tent, I'm just going to look out and see the woods. This is one thing I'm carrying that I didn't talk about in the last gear video. Basically, a really nice, comfortable pillow. And then this kind of miniature pillow right here. And this is the ridiculous amount of water that goes on that bike. Oh man, absolutely sweltering hot. So now what I think I'm going to do, since I've only got a finite amount of water, is take my tarp and set up some kind of a sun shade. That way I'll stay as cool as possible when I'm hanging out, which will allow me to use as little water as possible. All right, first thing I need to do is find a stick of the proper size. All right, that's just an old dead offshoot of that tree. Seems pretty solid, so I'll go ahead and saw that down. The wind seems to be coming in from this way, so I'm going to position this in such a way that the wind can kind of blow underneath of it and not knock it around too much. Tie one end to the tarp, then hook this other end. Stake this down. Just have to do. I found this stump way up on the top of that hill over there and kind of very carefully rolled it down the hill until it ended up right there. So now I got a table. Like I said, it's absolutely oppressively hot, so I think I'm gonna go jump in the creek. I'm leaving my hiking boots on for the time being, just simply because I gotta walk through a bunch of woods to get to the creek. Kind of one thing that sucks about this spot, but at least there is a creek. You're walking through a bunch of stuff and not exactly sure where you're stepping, and now it's getting hotter and snakes are going to be more active. I would have typically probably just skipped on taking a bath because I just took a shower this morning, but I've been working my shoulder a lot, so I think the cold will be good for it. Kind of almost like an ice pack, but even better. There's a really big lizard, which are kind of something you don't really necessarily see a lot of in these parts. Look like a big skink. Right now I'm just trying to find my good swimming hole that was pretty deep, and it's one of the only kind of semi-deep pools out here, and I've hiked back in here a pretty good ways, so I guess I missed it at some point. I don't remember it being this far back in here. Horrifying sound of a massive tree branch falling nearby. Oh my good Lord, I just got the scare of my life. Man. Whew. There's a big dead branch off of that tree that just dropped just on the other side of this creek, man. And I could hear something huge starting to come loose up there. I just started to like crouch down and get into a protective position when it finally hit. I mean, just goes to show you got to watch it. Being careful where you set your tent up is one thing, but just even walking in the woods, I mean, people have been known to be hit with falling limbs. All right, I think that's it right there. I sort of recognize those trees. I'm making a lot of racket, which I always do when I'm sort of hiking around through the bush. Just kind of make myself as well heard as possible. Yeah, that was it. And it was kind of a waterfall right there, but the water level is so low that it ain't looking too good. This was the only other semi-good spot that I found, which has a bunch of leaves and stuff at the bottom of the bed there, which I'm not crazy about, but I guess I'm gonna get in there and see if I can kick some of those leaves out and let some of the silt sort of settle, and then that'll be the new pool. Yeah. Even this is down low. Man. All right, that murky water is going to take forever to settle. Woo. That just looks like a snaky place. It kind of looks like a snake anyway. So it seems like there'd be a snake hiding in there. That's whatever, a big insect right next to a spider. Just heard something over that way. Bunches of little minnows in here nibbling at me already. There's a pretty nice fire pit. It looks like somebody constructed a long time ago based on the condition of that stump. And there was their stack of firewood, which is now rotted almost to a pile of mush. Nerves are still on edge from that dead tree branch falling right next to me, man. That was freaky. Even though I've spent a lot of time in these woods and I'm very comfortable here, crazy stuff can happen. And this is as hardcore wilderness as you would find anywhere else on the planet, pretty much. All you have to do is take a look around and you can see all those fallen trees and dead tree branches. Luckily I made it back in one piece. So now I think I'm gonna grab some burgers I got out of my cooler bag. I'm gonna pull them out of there and let them kind of finish thawing the rest of the way out. Yep, frozen solid. I knew I should have taken those out as soon as I got here, but I think actually burger patties are one of the few things that'll cook pretty well, even if it is frozen. I knew I was gonna forget something hiking down here. Forgot my coconut oil. But actually, I think these will cook up just fine without it. I really don't feel like hiking back up there. What I didn't forget is my Kinder's prime steak seasoning with black garlic and truffle. So, no way I was forgetting this powdered gold. One thing I try to do is keep all of one thing together. In other words, everything I need for cooking is usually in this bag. But because I was like pulling stuff off the Honda Element and putting it on my bike, everything's kind of discombobulated. And just to do it upright, I'm gonna get a little bit of garlic powder. A little bit of extra on there. There's a ton of rendered fat already in that pan, so I mean, I don't think coconut oil would have helped me. I'm really happy they got the road open again. I've only seen one car in hours of being out here, which is cool. People that do know about this road probably don't think it's open yet, so they must have just opened it up. Oh, that garlic smells good. That's one of the things. If I can only have 2 spices, salt and garlic, that'd be it for me. But let me tell you, it feels good to be back doing what I do on a motorcycle, even though setting up that camp is a pain in the ass. I mean, by comparison on the Honda Element, all I have to do is park the car and everything's set up. But it's definitely a vibe doing it off of a bike because there's no separation between you and nature. All right, speaking of garlic, I got a little bit of an extra treat. This is some black garlic Gouda, which is absolutely insane. So I'm gonna slice a little bit of that up and throw it on there. Slice. I'm gonna scissor a little bit of this up. Try not to touch anything because I got off on my hands. I'm gonna save some of this for breakfast. Alrighty, man, this looks good. Black garlic cheese is gonna be awesome. All the flies suddenly found me, and so I'm gonna have to eat and swat at the same time. Since I got that cot, I've been putting my chair in here because I'm not quite as concerned about getting dirt on the inside of the tent as I used to be when I was sleeping on the ground. So a little bit of dirt comes off in the tent from the feet of the chair. Now that it's getting dark, if I were to try to read with my headlamp outside, it would just attract a bunch of bugs, and I ain't having that. So yeah, putting the chair inside the tent. That was a game changer when I started doing that. All right, waking up. Pretty much just used this blanket and my sheet bag last night, and was pretty much fine for most of the night. Already the sun's coming up over there, so I think it's gonna be a hot day. Part of the problem with sleeping on a cot is you have absolutely zero insulation at all, you know, because in colder weather and stuff like that, you know, you get a draft underneath the cot, and it's a lot colder than would be a really well insulated sleeping pad. I just don't really have that much room for that much stuff. My bike is already overloaded as it is, and I want to take the least amount of stuff as possible to have some better handling. But anyway, no cell signal out here, which is the way I like it. So still 2 gallons of water left, which should make it through the day. I'm gonna get a little bit of my delicious coffee. This is basically freeze-dried, taster's choice. It actually ends up being a lot cheaper to buy it in bulk as opposed to getting the individual serving packets. So saves a few cents per cup. So what I like to do is just kind of get my special spoon that somebody at a restaurant in Mexico gave me, which is just the perfect size spoon for getting inside one of these body armor bottles. So I just kind of do like that. It's good to do this outdoors because if you spill any of this instant coffee on your tent, it tends to sort of like turn into glue basically once the moisture hits it, and it's kind of annoying. Shake it up like that. Great. Not winning any flavor awards, but it's coffee. All right, it's about 10 a.m. I'm getting hungry, so I'm gonna walk down close to the creek and see about getting some. It's not really lunch, it's more of a kind of a brunch, I guess, if you will. Fortunately for me, my sister has recently started raising chickens, which has meant a pretty ample supply of farm fresh eggs. I absolutely love fresh eggs, and these are way better than the stuff you find in the store. So I got those farm fresh eggs, a little bit of that black garlic Gouda, and some pepperoni. All right, this time I didn't forget my coconut oil. Now I'm going to get some garlic powder. And some of my prime steak black garlic seasoning. All right, now the fun part is attempting to flip this in kind of a neat manner, which is frankly not going to happen. It could have been worse. I like my yolks intact usually, and I'm not crazy about scrambled eggs, but this is why I don't usually cook eggs when I'm outdoors. It ends up being a totally messy undertaking and never exactly turns out the way I want it to. At least they're not scrambled. I find that this combination of the spicy pepperoni with the eggs really works great. And of course that black garlic Gouda is absolutely awesome. So bon appetit. My attempts yesterday at this really rough gravel road left a lot to be desired. So all the weight obviously made a difference, besides the fact that I ain't used to the weight because I haven't done it in a while. But anyway, I want to get a little bit more practice on the gravel and just kind of see if I can get back in the swing of the gravel and just the kind of loose sort of handling on it. All right, that was definitely much, much better without all the weight on the bike. And actually, with this type of a road, it would be squirrely anyway, just because the chunks of that gravel are so big. My boot lace already totally not only gave up, but kind of exploded in a couple of different places, several different places. I don't know what that's all about. Definitely coming up here on a motorcycle gives you an added feeling of accomplishment. So anyway, now I'm going to very carefully try to get back down the mountain and hopefully make it back to camp in one piece. I really don't do a lot of stuff that's too crazy when I'm out in the woods by myself, because I know if I get in some trouble and break a bone or something like that, it's just going to be a total pain in the ass, to say the least. But anyway, here we are. There's a turkey, probably several turkeys. This is a place apparently a lot of people come up here to turkey hunt. They are not easy to sneak up on, let me tell you. And there it goes. Look at all this new growth. It's crazy. It's about 3:30 now, so I'm going to start dealing with dinner. But I got this insulated cooler bag, and all the way at the bottom, I got a couple of bottles of water that was frozen. Let's see, it is no longer frozen, but it is cool to the touch, which is good. I got one of my discounted steaks right there, which is some kind of a sirloin steak that was on sale. That's still cool to the touch, so I'm gonna go ahead and season this up and let it sit for about 30 minutes and let the seasoning kind of marinate into it and sort of tenderize it a little bit. I can already hear the flies swarming around, just waiting. Typically I would let a big steak like this rest for a minute before cutting into it, but out here, it ain't happening. That was one of the more uncomfortable steak eating experiences I've ever had. Just instantly got swarmed, sitting there trying to eat the steak as fast as I could, swatting them away constantly, and they followed me down to the creek when I was doing my dishes, and it was just super uncomfortable. The only other place that I've seen that's been like that has been South Dakota in Sturgis. Some years there'll be like a whole bunch of bees out there. The next year flies. Occasionally we do get mosquitoes out there, but typically the flies. So I usually carry a thermocell that I use for mosquitoes, but it seems to work with varying results for flies. All right, that's the last of my water right there. So I'm just gonna kind of sip on that, save enough to where I have like a liter for in the morning. A little bit to drink and a little bit for coffee. I do have some water purification tablets in there. If I were in some kind of an emergency situation, I could use them. But it's some kind of a weird chemical that I'm kind of not sure about. I don't really know if I want to make a habit of drinking that stuff, but I don't know. I'd have to do a little bit more research on the chemical. I've used them before, and it kind of makes the water taste kind of like chlorine. And that might actually be sort of the active ingredient. I don't remember, potassium chloride or whatever it is. All right, finally that sun's going down, man. Kind of nice. I've had the whole place to myself. I don't think I've seen a single car go by all day. Actually, last night there were about 3 or 4 cars, which is kind of annoying because they were actually flying through here like bats out of hell. Anyway, man, it's just been so nice and peaceful and just getting away from the phone again. I've said it before, I'll say it again. People need to get off their phones, at least part of the time. It's one of the coolest things that man has ever invented, and it's also one of the most problematic. Right now, a lot of the mental health problems that we're having, you know, not just in this country, but worldwide, are due in large part to people just spending way too much time on social media, on their phones. The only way to combat it, I think, is for people to realize what they're giving up in spending excessive amounts of time online and realizing that it's worth it to sort of dial it back. I'm not completely getting off the internet and the phone because the internet's awesome. And I think it's fine in moderation, but very few people can do their smartphones in moderation these days. And you'll see it like just everywhere you go, any kind of public transportation, on the airplane, on buses. Everybody's got their head in their phones. Nobody reads books anymore. So yeah, man, I'm a believer and a proponent in periodically detoxing from the internet. Bunch of stuff crashing through the woods, squirrels and stuff. Something was like way up in a tree and like making some kind of a knocking sound. Something keeps biting me out here, some kind of little bug that you can barely even see. It might be a no-see-em, but you can see them. So just a little tiny black bug, crawling insect, and got a hell of a bite to it. So I think I'm going to crawl in this tent and put my chair in there, sit down and read my book. See you in the morning. Man, it's just so cool to wake up and see this. So this little adventure made a couple of things pretty apparent to me. After living off a motorcycle for essentially 7 years and then not being able to do it, was kind of messing with me a little more than I let on. So even though I really like the Honda Element, it's just not good enough on gas. I can't really afford to take any long trips with it. So I think the next order of business for the next couple of 2 or 3 weeks is just going to be taking some shorter trips like this and kind of just seeing how I hold up and kind of getting back into it. And this is kind of what I recommend to people that are kind of interested in hitting the road on a motorcycle and living this way. Dip your feet into the water and take some smaller trips, really get comfortable with it, get your gear dialed in, and then think about taking a longer trip and a longer trip. And if you still like it, I mean, hell, you might end up doing what I did back in 2019 when I came back from Florida and gave away all my furniture and got rid of my apartment and then ended up on the road full time. In the meantime, I'm going to start packing this operation up and heading into town. I got another video I got to upload. All right, another thing I just realized while getting all this stuff dried out is I got a little bit of a hole right there. So I got my trusty Gorilla Tape. This works great for fixing tents. And this is perfect timing because this is the very last sip of water. Cheers. Delicious. This trip certainly left me feeling optimistic about my chances of getting back on my bike, but to be completely honest, my shoulder was still a long damn way from perfect. Being able to once again travel full-time off a motorcycle was going to take a hell of a lot of patience and due diligence. For the moment, I was back on 2 wheels, the sun was shining, and everything was right with the world. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. And as usual, I've included an optional donate link in the drop box below for anyone who might like to contribute to this project. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the road.